What is up, guys? Randall Thor 19 back again with another daily video. It's pouring rain here in Chicago, torrential downpours, but I hope your day is going well. What are we going to be talking about right now? Well, you see the title. We're going to be talking about some Sony, some PlayStation 4, some PS Plus, basic PlayStation dominance, Far Cry 5, whole bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I know a lot of people are probably going to like this video. PlayStation fans, obviously. And a lot of maybe Xbox fans won't particularly care for it. But hey, I usually call it how I see it. I give credit where credit is due. And man, I gotta say, PlayStation, this gen, is just killing it. Just absolutely killing it. Like, you could go back to previous gens, PS1, PS2, and they dominated then. But it really wasn't impressive to me, especially the PS2 era. I mean, you had Nintendo, yeah, they were on the downturn, and Microsoft was coming in. You didn't really expect much from them. So even though the PS2 sold a hell of a lot, it wasn't impressive. But then last gen happened, 360, PS3, Wii. The Wii started out super strong, this fantastic anomaly, sold so much, and then eventually in North America, Xbox 360 caught it. They sold like 80 million worldwide. I think maybe even 90 million. PS3 started out slow, regained momentum. Eventually, I think passed up Xbox 360 worldwide. And then you start off this gen, and the PlayStation 4 has been dominant, regaining much of its swagger from previous gens. Xbox has lost a lot. Switch is still kind of... We don't know much to say about Switch. I made that video talking how, oh man, Nintendo's killing it, and they are. Their first 2 months on the market have been really well. Can't really say if it, how well it's going to be down the road, but they're doing fantastic. We'll see how it is a year from now. Microsoft, I think Microsoft is doing great. The thing is, people hate on Xbox because it's not doing as well as the PS4. But this video is going to be about PS4 dominance. We got some information that I thought was kind of interesting. So, during the Sony Investor Relations Day in 2017, they gave away a whole bunch of info to a bunch of investors and stuff, and they mainly talked about how they're going to grow PlayStation in the future, what they currently have now, things that investors would want to see. And boy, oh boy, PlayStation is killing it, man. There ain't no denying it. You can't hide it. Anybody that tries to damage control it and downplay it, I don't know why you would. The facts are in the face. And this is coming from somebody who I've always said, I thought this gen, PlayStation didn't do anything special per se. They kind of benefited from Microsoft shooting themselves in the foot, right? I think this gen plays out a little bit differently if certain decisions weren't made, like if Kinect wasn't included in the box and the Xbox One was the same price as the PS4. I think this gen plays out differently, not only for Xbox, but also for PlayStation. But hey, that's not what happened. We gotta kind of live in the reality of now. And PlayStation, man, they're killing it. Definitely killing it worldwide, for sure. So let's take a look at some of this stuff and talk about it, right? So they announced that they have 70 million monthly active users. Now, remember, Microsoft was always the one to talk about MAUs, especially because they were getting beat sales-wise. So they moved to the monthly active user category, information to give to people. Microsoft, I believe, last quarter said they were at 52 million, which is a good number. 52 million monthly active users on the 360, on the Xbox One, and on Windows and mobile. Good number, 52 million people. That's a lot. It tells a lot to potential developers, potential investors about how big your user base really is, right? How many people are actually on the system, buying the games, buying DLC, playing the stuff. Well, Sony, obviously, since they're just kind of dominating everything, we didn't really know what their monthly active users was. But we find out in this article, in this Investor Relations Day, that Sony is at 70 million monthly active users. And that is impressive. Greatly impressive considering where PSN was last gen, right? I mean, during the PS2 era, PSN basically didn't exist. I think it existed for smaller titles like SOCOM and stuff, but it basically wasn't on the level of Xbox Live. And even last gen, with the whole hacking thing where PlayStation Network got hacked and was down for a while. So to see it where it is now, you have to say, hey, Sony, you did a great job. 70 million monthly active users. That says a lot. Of course, people will say, well, they have 60 million consoles, so of course they should have that many monthly active users. And it's like, whatever. I mean, you can say Microsoft should have way more than 52 million monthly active users on Xbox, considering the Xbox app almost comes, pre-installed on Windows 10, which has 400 million users. You can't always damage control these things. And I never do. I never damage control anything. We're talking about how impressive Sony's been lately. 70 million monthly active users is a lot. Is quite a lot. Yes, that takes accounts on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Vita, probably the PSP, anywhere you can make PlayStation stuff. It's not PlayStation Now, but that's a lot of people playing on PlayStation, buying DLC, playing games, right? But we always wondered what the breakdown was for people actually paying for the service, PSN Plus, right? Microsoft barely gives out numbers. They usually say kind of like a total number of like Xbox live users, but they don't really separate between gold and silver. The usual thing when we gotten that stuff in the past, it's usually 50%. So I'm not really at least not off the top of my head, sure what the number is for Xbox. But if you look at this article, they actually broke it down. They broke it down during this PS4 ecosystem maximize profit during the harvest period, where they said at the end of 2016, year-end paid subscribers, they're at 26.4 million PSN Plus subscribers. That is a lot. Granted, it is less than 50% of their monthly active users. So they have 70 million monthly active users. And only 26.4 million PSN Plus subscribers. So it's less than 50%, but all in all, I think that's still a really good number, and you can tell looking at the graph as well, they had 20.8 at the end of 2015, 26.4, so they basically gained 6 million paying customers over the course of the year, so who knows what they'll have by the end of this year. So that's a lot. I don't know what Microsoft's numbers are. They don't necessarily give it out. It could be similar because at least on the Xbox side, people are more conditioned to paying for Xbox Live, at least have been since basically the dawn of Xbox back in 2001. So people are more, I guess, on the Xbox side, at least more accustomed to paying for online multiplayer and things like that, where this gen was just the start of paying for PlayStation, and I know a lot of PlayStation fans were upset with the idea they had to play for multiplayer when it was free last gen, but obviously, it's doing very well. A lot of people pay for the service, and they also talked about VR. They said it's doing well for what it is, and they want to expand it and stuff. VR, I've talked about my distaste for it, and yes, I have never used it. The problem with VR for me is it's way too expensive, especially for something to pick up and buy on a whim, right? Would I love to try it? Sure, but I'm not going to try it at a GameStop or a Best Buy. If it was priced right, maybe like $150, $200, I would consider picking up, but I am definitely not going to impulse buy something that is $500 that I'm not sure about the future of the product. So to me, it's like, yeah, I know that it's something they sell and they got to puff it up, but I'm not really interested in VR right now at the current price point. What else we got here in the Sony thing? They talk about their operating profits, but you guys don't want to hear about that. They plan to sell 78 million PlayStation 4s by the end of fiscal year 2017. They just announced, I think maybe a month ago, that they were at 60 million, so they plan to sell 18 million more PlayStations over the course of the next year. to be at 78 million. That is impressive. 78 million PlayStation 4s. This gen is going probably better than anybody had predicted for PlayStation. What else can you say? Bravo to Sony. You know, and to reach that number, to reach another 18 million, you're probably going to get a price drop. And yes, I've said it for a while now. I am on the market for a PlayStation 4. I'm going to get one when it's new and when it's $200. There's enough games on the system now where I feel that at that price point and with the collection of games that it has exclusive-wise, that I'm comfortable paying that amount of money to buy it. We got Uncharted collection and Uncharted 4. We have The Last of Us. We have Horizon Zero Dawn. We have Until Dawn. We have Infamous Second Son, and a whole bunch of other games that I want to play. And then, of course, there was the news yesterday about Far Cry 5. They released the trailers from Ubisoft, and game looks pretty cool. We'll get a reveal in a couple days here, and of course, it looks like Sony, once again, has the marketing rights for Far Cry 5. They got Lawbreakers exclusively kind of at launch. Everything is just coming up Sony right now, even in the face of Scorpio at the end of the year and at E3. Man, Sony is definitely sure as hell going to try to hide Scorpio and market with all these different huge games. So another game in the Sony portfolio, the Sony lineup of marketed games, Far Cry 5. That's a lot of them. Even with Red Dead Redemption skipping this holiday. Big loss for both Sony and Microsoft. They would make a lot of money out of those games. Obviously, they take 30%. That's a lot of missed money for that. But, they'll just make even more money when it comes out in May of next year. And PlayStation has enough marketing agreements with games where it probably won't even miss a beat. They'll market Destiny 2 in September. They'll market, obviously, Call of Duty and Star Wars Battlefront in November. We don't know when Far Cry 5 is. Rumor is late September, maybe October. They'll have a game there. They got a lot of games this holiday to market with. And that's kind of what happens when you are the market leader. And especially what happens when you're dominating your opponent by 2-1. That's what happens. And, hopefully you guys take away from this that I'm just a straight shooter. I've always said I was. I get props where it's deserved. Nintendo's doing great. Microsoft is doing great in their own right as well. I think a lot of people don't give Microsoft a lot of credit just because they look at Sony and they're like, well, they're not Sony, so they're not doing well. But Microsoft is doing good. I hope they continue to improve and do better. There are things I want from Microsoft that I don't have the connection to Sony as I do with Microsoft. Obviously, that's apparent. I am an Xbox gamer. But at the same time, I don't hate Sony. Right? I mean, many of my videos, I don't even really talk about Sony. And the ones I do about the advertising one where I found it hilarious, it's nothing against Sony. I don't hate Sony. I don't hate Nintendo. I just found the ad funny. I found the idea of them advertising fake 4K funny to me. It's funny to me. Of course, it may not be funny to anybody else, but that's just what it is. So, yeah, Sony dominating. It's going to continue. Will Scorpio cut into that at the end of the year? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see how E3 pans out, what the sales are for Scorpio, what Sony has up their sleeves, in regards to price drops and games and their release schedule. But as for right now, 70 million monthly active users, 26.4 million people paying for PSN Plus. They want to sell 18 million units of PS4 hardware by the end of the year. This sucker is going to reach 100 million at some point. Will it reach PS2 type levels? Maybe. But anyways, congratulations, Sony. You are dominating. And that's going to be the video for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Consider subscribing for more content. And I will see everybody later.